Welcome to the Team Bayaya YouTube channel, where we are parenting, homeschooling, working and churching with a tablespoon of humour. My name is Isabel. For this current series, we are looking at the topic of why homeschooling. For our final Instagram live that we did, I interviewed a lady called Simone Roberts, and I actually first encountered Simone on YouTube. During the first lockdown, Jamelia, the singer, you know, money don't say you love me, cash don't make me stay, or won't make me stay, what I think. Okay, anyway, that singer, she actually did a panel discussion with some homeschooling mums to discuss the topic of homeschooling, because of course during the lockdown homeschooling started trending as a topic of interest. And not many people may know this about Jamelia, but she is actually a homeschooling mum herself. Simone Roberts was one of her panelists, and I just remember watching the interview and just loving her vibe and everything that she had to say about the family and her family. I started checking her out and I started following her on Instagram, and we became Instagram friends. She has a lifestyle approach to learning that you will be very much inspired by. I certainly was, and I'm sure that you will enjoy our conversation as much as I did.
So, please tell us a bit more about yourself and about your family to start off with.
Great. Okay, so where do we start? Okay, my name is Simone Roberts. I am a wife and a mother to a wonderful husband called Mark Roberts, and our children, we have 6 children. The eldest is 19, her name's Rael, and she's moved on, but we have let me get the numbers right, because it depends what time of year it is. Okay, so we have Roxy is 8.
Wow.
And Terrell is 6. Kenzie's 4. Niall's 2. And Hezekiah, who's here with me.
Hello! Hi, little man!
He's having his epic back-to-back feeds at the moment, so I just thought I'd have him here with me, and then I know I can just whip this up and talk out whilst we talk. So,
yes, she has 6. Someone has put in the comments 6, like 6. Yes, 6.
Yeah, 6.
And they're ranging from 19 to 4 months.
To 4 months, yeah.
Yes, wow.
We have a very big age gap, obviously, with Rhea. She's 19. And then there's, 11 years age gap, yeah, between her and Roxy.
Wow.
Our family, we home educate, obviously, and we are also self-employed. My husband is a photographer. So in between that, and videographer, sorry. So in between that and YouTube and any other jobs that come up that suit us, we make the ship sail, you know, and we work together a lot, and I think that's really important when you're home educating. Yeah, we love our lifestyle, and that's how we like to approach it, as a lifestyle rather than, you know, something that's separate. Well, this is education, this is homeschooling, and this is work. You know, it's all a lifestyle. The children learn a lot about photography and stuff like that as well. So, yeah, a lifestyle approach. We have a YouTube channel called Thankfully True, and that's where we share our lifestyle journey and the attitude that we have towards feeling grateful for life and all the blessings that it brings, and the challenges too. And yeah, that sums it up.
Sums it up, yeah. And so let's go back to talking about the 6 children, right? So Simone actually has a video on YouTube where she's giving birth, right? And she's giving birth. It's a water birth, and you actually had all your family present whilst you were giving birth. Yeah. Guys, when I tell you that the way that she's acting as if she's on a beach somewhere, lounging, like effortless. She was literally like, you know, and then just gracefully, and then all of a sudden there was a baby, and you're like, hold on, what, where, how? I don't understand. So clearly, I think I think that you were just made special, because that's the reason why you're having like as many children, because childbirth is like, it's just a breeze. But I was not looking as glamorous as you when I gave birth to me. Trust me.
Oh, bless you. I think
So if you're sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it's all a mindset. It's a mindset, isn't it? It's a mindset. And my mind was that my body was made to do it, and it's not bigger than me, and I can manage it. And that's how I was from when I had my first daughter. And she was, I was 19 then. So, you know, from then I was thinking that way. It wasn't bigger than me. So I think as time's gone on, I've just become more and more natural to it, and just professional with it as well, and you know, keeping my mind right through pregnancy and right through labour too. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Hey, that was impressive. That was amazing when I saw that. So, in terms of you guys homeschooling, what actually inspired the decision to homeschool? Like, where did that even come from?
I think in terms of myself, when I was about 20, I used to feel that was the route for Rael at the time. I was a single parent at that time, and Rael was in school, and I just felt that I was working in a school at the time as well, and I just felt that the level of care that I was giving to children, my daughter wasn't getting in her setting, and I just felt that I could do a better job. However, because she was an only child at that time, it was kind of perceived as, it was seen as something that you don't do when you have one child, because it's isolating, and I was basically scaremongered out of it. Basically. And it felt like I wouldn't have had, I was scaremongered about it, but I wasn't strong enough to silence the noise. Let me take ownership of that. I wasn't strong enough to silence the noise that was around me, telling me that it's not something that I can do. And yeah, so I didn't end up homeschooling Rael. When I met Mark, fast forward another, 10 years after that, I met Mark, and one of the first conversations we had about bringing up our family was about homeschooling. And when I expressed that I'd like to do this, he then said exactly the same thing. And it was like, oh, thank you. Yes. You know, it was so refreshing to hear a gentleman speak like that. And yeah, from then I knew we were getting married and having lots of children, basically.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, like so. From then, and that was early in the friendship that we discussed that. So yeah, it's been that way ever since. I think having that background of working in schools for so many years, from the time of, remember work experience at school? That's the first time I actually stepped into a school to do voluntary work. And since then, I always worked in a school, in that environment, always. And some of it was voluntary, some of it was paid. But most of the time, I always felt like I can do this. I can run my own school. I can have my own, now I have my own school. I have my own school.
Yeah,
that's always been the way, really. Like, every time people ask me, I say, since, how long have you been homeschooling? I say, since conception, because it literally works since conception.
And so in terms of you working in a school and seeing things and thinking, I could do a better job, what type of things were you seeing that made you feel like, I don't want to necessarily put my child through this?
Yeah, it was the whole continuity of care as well, because there was a lot of staff the very high rates of staff turnovers in school, and I find this very unsettling for children. I mean, obviously, if you have a couple of days off sick or what have you not, or you're on maternity leave, that's different. But if every minute you have teachers leaving, it says a lot about the running of the school and how things are set. It says an awful lot. And I used to always sit there in the classroom thinking, my goodness, look at all of these children. I don't even know them. I don't know them. I don't know their families properly. And I used to make an effort to try and, memorize names and talk to family members in the playground when they pick them up and things like that. But the time would often be taken up by the other teacher having to say, oh, this was a bit iffy with the behaviour today, or so-and-so's on report now. And, I wouldn't get a chance to actually speak to the parents and get to know them. And even at parents' evening, it was very much a tick box selection of goodies. Everything was about ticking the boxes and meeting certain requirements for Ofsted. And I was more about for the children and their families. And I just felt like that was not happening. It was quite heartbreaking sometimes to see the conveyor belt system that children are put through as well during a school day. Right, you've got to do this now you've got to do this, now you've got, and the children are exhausted. And I just used to think, goodness me, this is a lot. It was quite hard to see sometimes, especially when children were getting to that age of, you could see they still wanted to just play, and just play is me playing that down, and play is very important, as we know, but it's seen as something that's separate to education. And I always used to, remind them, you've got your degree, don't stop learning. And that doesn't mean you have to sit at home at night swallowing 10 books. Just interact and look at the children. Look at how they're learning, look at how they're playing, and try and get to know them. Speak to them, at least, they're not just numbers. Speak to them. So I think just watching all of that really was quite hard. But that was in state schools. I actually worked in a private school too, and that was a big eye-opener. That was a big eye-opener.
Can you tell, how was it an eye-opener? Tell us more about that.
I loved that because I loved my time there, because I got to see, obviously you get what you pay for. Yeah. Yes. The standard of care in the private school that I worked at was just phenomenal. Like, I've never seen such care taken to the whole family approach. The approach was for the family, it was to the family, and it was about the family. Obviously, yes, they had to meet certain requirements to make sure that the parents are getting what they're paid for. But ultimately, it was about family, it was about building relationships, community, and just the events calendar alone. I used to be so excited about everything that was coming up. The events calendar for a private school, it's like every term there's lots of events, opportunities where families can get to know the teachers without the children being there. Sitting there drinking champagne and red wine with parents, eating 3-course meals with parents without the children. You got to know the families properly. And also, obviously, a lot of things are taught quite early in private schools, but because of the way that they holistically care about the family, they can push the children along that way, and it can be quite successful. Just the way it was done was absolutely beautiful. I loved it there. It was really nice, a nice time.
Do you know what? That's really interesting, because I actually spent 3 years in a private school, and I can definitely attest to that there is a lot of interest that's taken into, okay, what type of family does this child come from? And there is definitely more involvement of the parents. And I think that is so important, because what I don't like about the way that things are in the world is almost like you've got the state, and the state are like, okay, we'll take care of your children, you go and work. You go and be busy with something else, And it's like, no. Like, let's kind of give ownership to the family. Do you know what I mean? And so, because the family is so crucial, and it's so important. And, the other day, one of my friends whose son actually attends a private school, and her daughter was saying that, the head teacher, spoke to her and, kind of pulled her up on the fact that, her daughter had really bad table manners and, was like, so what's going on at home? But just the amount of engagement and conversations that they have as parents to head teachers. In state schools, you're only really talking to the head teacher if your child's in trouble, And so, I think that's really, really, that's a good point. So was there, I know
as well, sorry to interrupt you. Can I just
No, go on.
When I was in the private school as well, what was so beautiful is that there was one day where a little child was crying. Now, in state schools, you are not allowed to touch or hug children. And it was so hard sometimes to see reception children screaming for their parents, and you couldn't pick them up and hug them properly. And because to me, when I walked into the school, those 26 children were mine. They were my babies. I wanted to feel that they had a mother away from being away from their mother, and that was really hard. When I went to the private school, and I think a child just came up to me and hugged me, and I was like a bit stiff, and I was like, "Is this right?" He was like, "Yeah, hug him," and I was like, "Yeah." It was like the scene from The Lion King, and you hug them because, you can show children affection in the school. Yeah, and I was so pleased with that. But yeah, that's something that I missed out that I wanted to say.
So when it came to you having your children, what made you think, okay, we're not going to bother with private school as much as I loved the experience, we're going to homeschool? Like, what was the deciding factor?
I always felt that you can have your own private school at home without the fees.
I like that.
You really can. When people say, do your children go to school? I say, no, they have a private education.
I'm going to use that one.
Private education, they do. And
yes.
And even if you do want to do it that way, I know people that used to send their children to private school that now group together in a group, and they have tutors that come to each individual houses and teach different subjects, and they save thousands that way, and they just have a tutor doing it. They have a couple of tutors and they pay them, and they do that instead of doing the private school route. So yes, we have a private school. This is our school. Thankfully, true is our school.
Is us, I 100% agree with that. I always say that I believe that our children are receiving a level, I don't even think it's comparative to private school education. I actually think in many ways it's more superior. And I'll qualify that statement in a minute. But, they're doing it at a fraction of the price, of what you would pay. Although, of course, private school does come with certain benefits in terms of the networking opportunities and the type of people that your child is mixing with and the doors that can open. I won't deny that. But the reason why I say superior form of education is because it's so tailored to your child, and you don't get any more tailored than that, really. And so going back to what you previously said, the comment that you made about the importance of play when it comes to learning, and how you would see children in school learning and playing, and then the playtime would be ended abruptly, and you kind of felt that was something that was sad to a certain degree, because education and play was seen as so separate from each other. How do you approach it in your homeschooling environment, in terms of because what if a parent is thinking, okay, well, what about the balance with structure and following a routine, or maintaining discipline? Do you have the mindset that if they want to play, I'll just let them play, and then when they want to learn, I'll follow their lead? Like, what's your approach with that?
Well, we don't have a set routine every day, but we have pockets of focus. So if they are focusing on a jigsaw, focus on it and finish it, depending on how many pieces, but they kind of whiz through their jigsaws, to be honest. If they're playing with something, they put their own focus into it. You very rarely have to say, okay, stop playing now, come and do this, or come and do something else. They will carry on and play for ages if the play environment is stimulating enough. And that doesn't necessarily mean with lots of plastic and colours and lots of things to be pressing, real life stuff. And I guess that Montessori approach where you have real things to play with. I go to charity shops and I buy real crockery. I buy real knives and forks, real glasses, real pots and pans. And that's what they play with in their mud kitchen or their water kitchen if we don't feel like playing with the mud. When they have a kitchen in our kitchen too, in that you would usually use to put your vacuum cleaner in, that is actually a kitchen area as well. So they use that too. And the whole play side of it is them leading it, and depending on, you know, children, we do try and not let our children get bored, and boredom is where creativity begins. So get bored. They have to be bored sometimes, you know, and then you just see the play flourish. Sometimes I will have something to do, like say, I think to myself, oh, I could do with going to the shops today, and I listen into their games, and I think, nah, we're not going to the shops today. I can't interrupt that because it's so in depth and so deep, and and they might finish it within the next 15 minutes, in which case we'll go. But if that's going on for another hour and a half, I'm not interrupting it. And it might sound silly, but it's something that you kind of sign up to as a home educating parent, to kind of go with a flow sometimes and not have everything so rigid, because we're not trying to replicate school here with timings, you know. It's more of a free flow, but we have pockets of focus. They do a lot of instrumental, like piano and stuff like that, you know. I'm playing it down a bit. They're very good. They're very good.
Yes, I've seen you have a very creative approach to learning. Like, your house is full of instruments. I've seen videos of like your daughter sewing. You know, you're always making stuff out of like bits of fabric, like you always create something. I'm like, wow, this family is extremely creative.
Yeah, all of us are, and especially Mark as well is very creative, so it's just inevitable that we're having creative children too. So yeah, it depends. If they're sewing, like I said, they have to focus on that, and the focus comes with as well with them having a responsible edge to the sewing. Like, I don't just set up all the sewing machine and let Roxy or Terrell sew. They have to set up the sewing machine. They have to thread it. They have to do the bobbing. They have to do it all, so that the focus then becomes a bit of a responsibility, because they know they have to look after this machine. They also have to look after themselves with the safety aspects of it. So the focus comes naturally when they kind of lead the way sometimes. There are times where we have to kind of guide or instruct that they find something to do, but it's very rare that we need to fill the gaps. If they feel like resting, they can rest, but it's very rare that we need to fill those gaps for them. They do tend to find their own things to do.
And so, in terms of what you cover with them, what subjects or what topics what are the main themes behind your teaching approach with them?
The main theme is we're all teachers, and they can teach me, and I can teach them. There are, obviously, we have respect for each other, and whatever we know more about, we can teach them, and what they know more about, they can teach us. I always say my timetables are rubbish, but my son Terrell, he teaches something else. So he teaches me timetables, he helps me out with them, and he knows he's teaching me. He knows he's teaching his little brothers. He feels that responsibility. He feels that that ability to help people progress, and that reinforces his learning and his practice, and it also helps him to focus, because he knows he's got a responsibility to teach everyone in the room, you know. And I think we just kind of put it down to a lot of it is lifestyle. If they are playing and they're pretending to make a smoothie, they then can. Do you agree? Yes. If they pretend to make a smoothie, they then can get the ingredients and actually make the smoothie that they prepared. I'll get them to write the ingredients down to cover writing. They can weigh ingredients that cover science and math. You know, there's so many different ways to incorporate the standard, you could call it core subjects, the core subjects into everyday life.
Yeah.
We set out We have a budget. Sometimes I won't stick to the budget. Terrell will kindly let me know that I've gone over the budget.
Wow.
And he needs to calculate that himself with his mental arithmetic to be able to tell me that well, that's not on the list. You know, I can't see where it says flapjack, Mum.
Wow.
Don't worry about it, right?
Yeah. Do you know, and I can see exactly what you're talking about in terms of you making this homeschooling experience just a part of everyday life, you know. And I guess, and this is it, like education, it shouldn't start and stop at school gates. Like, it's a part of life. And once we get our children to just love learning, they'll never stop.
Of course. And it's home educating as well. Everyone is homeschooled. I always say that to my family and my friends. Everyone is homeschooled. Even if you go to a school, you're still homeschooled, because when you come home or before you go, there is still teaching, there's still learning. You know, not many knew how to do certain things in Rael's school when she was, I'd say from about 13, she started to realize that she could do much more than her friends in terms of like home life. You know, she could cook meals, she could use the washing machine, she could clean up, and she could sort herself out, you know. And I think schools are really spoiling children. They're not letting them do enough for themselves. You barely could, you know, they barely remember their PE kit half the time, and the school's the other for you. On the phone asking me, could you drop the PE kit in, please, for Rael, because she's forgotten it. I'm like, listen, I'm not into all that, to be honest. I'm sorry, but but if you don't drop it in, she'll have to go to another class and she'll be bored. I was like, oh, well, sorry. I'm sure next week she'll remember.
The next time. And you know, it's so true, because I mean, all of these life skills that you're talking about, they're so important. Like, when my mum was at school, they did things like sewing and you know, and you know, cooking, and this was standard. Like, and I think in this country they used to have it. I can't remember what it was called, but they've removed those key skills, and so now you have to select food technology as a GCSE, for example, but you know, these things like knowing how to sew a button or to hem a piece of clothing, like these are things that we should all know, the basics of carpentry, or do you know what I mean? And so I think that's amazing, and I think it's really, really valuable that you do that. And you know, you're talking about your older daughter, and you know, you're giving examples of when she was at school. So you're able to see the contrast, I guess, having one child who's been domestic science. Thank you. Someone's just mentioned it. You have the ability of being able to draw a comparison, right, between your daughter's been through the school system and the other children. And what can you say is the difference that you notice in terms of attitudes to learning, education, all that jazz?
I mean, like I said, she was homeschooled at home too. So, or even though it was tiring, I had to make sure, and our approach to our parenting style at home would be to make sure that we literally drum certain things into her while she's in the house too. It would take so much time for her to settle down after a holiday period. You know, like when they break up from school, it says they had 6 weeks off. It would take 2 weeks for her to climatize to her own environment again and become the child that we know. And then it would just be really sad sending her back after the 6 weeks. And
the 6 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, so that, you know, that was quite hard work. In terms of comparison, it's very hard because all of our children have different personalities, and I think that plays a part in it too. I think with our eldest daughter, she was very academic too, and she did very well in school, very, very well. And she was that, you know, teacher's pet, but had a little mouth on her and would light them up in front of Ofsted if things were being repeated. You know, she was that child. Like, oh, what did we do yesterday? you know, she would let them know, like, you know, so very, very different personalities altogether. Yeah, she was that sort of.
She was the exposer. When Ofsted came round, she'd be like, okay, she was a little bit. I was teaching as well. So.
She would let them know. And it's because obviously she didn't see why she had to be forward for Ofsted. But then on the other side of it, she was also selected for open days to show parents around, because she was very good at talking to parents and stuff and getting them to come into the school, obviously. So, yeah, I can see the freedom. It's the freedom of thought and the freedom to be themselves. Like sometimes Roxy comes downstairs and she could have on an African print dress with leggings underneath, a leg warmer, angel wings on her back, a scientist coat with a beret, like, you know, she's just rolling down the stairs like, let's go. And we're going now. And I'm looking at her like, yeah, let's go. You know, whereas that probably would have been a bit more like, oh, I need a pink top to go with the pink jumper, and you know, because of obviously being around the influences of others, the high street influence, and you've got the social media influence, you know, you see differences in that way. In terms of education, like core subjects and academics, these lot are very, very bright as well. You know, Ross is bright, Terrell's bright, Kendra's very bright, and so is Niall, like crazy bright for their age. So I can see both sides on how it's benefited them being home educated, obviously. Yeah. It's just our lifestyle. This is the way we wanted to do it. School's not for every family. And I don't like to say school's not for every child. It's not the child attending the school, it's the whole family. And you are absorbing other families too. You know, the whole family. You're absorbing nan, granddad, everyone. You're absorbing that too. You know, that's very hard work, you know, but I guess when we have this freedom, and I use that freedom, that's what I see in these children. It's freedom. They can be themselves. They can be who they want to be. That's priceless. It really is.
That's really, you worded that so well. And you know, one of the things that I actually learned from you and I picked up from you is I always used to see how you would get different family members to teach the children through, you know, the phone or the laptop or what have you, different lessons. And so I actually then, being inspired by you, I got my mother-in-law to put together a lesson on Zimbabwe, where my husband is from. Yeah. And she delivered that lesson, and then afterwards they had to write everything that they knew about Zimbabwe. And I just thought that was brilliant. So this is something that you do, right? Tell us about that. Like what areas do you get covered and by who?
Oh wow, it's so endless. Mark's sister, she does knowledge and understanding of the world type geography, and she covers history in it, and Mark's brother does the same. He also does a lot of online games with them and stuff, because he actually develops games for his training that he does worldwide, so he tests the games on them. I've got a cousin who does Tai Chi with them, and he will also be doing salsa, Cali Colombian salsa master classes with them.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
They're very good at salsa too, so he'll be doing some master classes with them. My mother-in-law's from Uganda, so we have, you know, lots of conversations obviously on the phone, and she'll speak to them in Swahili. But we also have like a YouTube playlist where we would play repeatedly whilst they're playing Swahili words and numbers and stuff. We also have, in your family alone, I could go on for ages, but in your family, the wealth of knowledge, it's not, you can't measure it. You cannot measure it. So when people say, you know, well, how do you cover this? I say, well, I don't. I just call Uncle so-and-so, you know. I've got an uncle, a great uncle, that plays the steel pan. And he has said that when it warms up, he will do steel pan lessons with them. We've got family members that sew. My mum is a teacher, a music teacher, so when she comes here, she just plays the piano with them and they copy, and that becomes a lesson. You know, never ends. Our next door neighbour, he does woodwork. He makes his own guitars and stuff. They watch him making them through the glass window of our garden. So the lessons come from everywhere, like without you even knowing, subconsciously sometimes the lessons are happening because it's not always formal and sit down and, you know, do it this way. And, you know, sometimes it's subconscious lessons too.
That's so good. And you know what? That's how people used to learn, you know, back in the day, back home. And, you know, just by having conversations, just by observing, you know, they're just taking it all in. Yeah. I just think that's amazing. And this is all virtual, or is it that sometimes people come to the home and also do things?
Yeah, sometimes they come to the home as well. Some of it's virtual, obviously, with the current climate, we have to adapt. To that. But if I'm honest, we don't really mix with a lot of home educating groups. You pick your tribe out of the home ed groups because not everyone is going to be what you would like to be around all the time. Just because we're home educators, it don't mean we're best friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you still pick your tribe. So we have met some dear friends in the home ed journey, and we do group up and everyone teaches their little area of expertise. And we just share basically that and just let the children play as well. And that it brings out so much conversation, and then it gives you ideas then of what you can do when you go home. Sometimes you think it's going to be a lesson and it's not because someone's not cooperating. But what you pick up from just speaking to the other parents, you think, oh, that's a great idea, actually. You know, when you get home, you try it, you know, and that's how it develops, and that's how we're going with it. I must say, though, we're not anti-school. We're not anti-school, but we are pro-creative learners, and we want to be able to create our curriculum for our children. And I say curriculum in inverted commas, you know, it's our curriculum, how we want to raise our children and our lifestyle that matches that. We want to travel, and children learn so much from traveling. Just getting on a bus, you know, you learn so much, and so many areas are covered. You know, they've got some great friends on the bus routes. Great people.
Absolutely. And you know what you were talking about in terms of, you know, getting family involved. You would be amazed at how much people would love the opportunity to share their knowledge and you know, to actually become the expert you know, in their field. Like I was, you know, my mother was like, yes, you know, and she loved it. And I was taken aback by the level of detail that she put into this lesson. Like, my 6-year-old and 3-year-old, and I was like, okay, you know. But you'd be amazed at how much people love the opportunity to share what they know. It's like, even in conversation, people love talking about themselves. So the best thing is to actually, you know, ask lots of questions. They love that. They love to be able to share their stories and their experiences and journeys and what they learn and what they know. And so, you would be amazed at how, you know, family members would love the opportunity to partake in the homeschooling experience and to help with delivering some of these lessons. And so, I took that inspiration from you, and that's something that I'm definitely going to keep going. I'm going to be asking different family members, you know, to share their wealth of knowledge, and especially when it comes to like our mother tongue. You know, I'm Ghanaian. And where are you from, actually, originally?
My parents are from Jamaica and St. Kitts. My mum's family are from Jamaica. My dad's family are from St. Kitts. My mum was born here. My dad was born in St. Kitts and came over when he was 4. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And your husband is Ugandan?
Ugandan, yeah. So the mix of cultures is like a lovely melting pot. But then as well, Mark grew up in the Solomon Islands because his father was a water engineer in the Solomon Islands, the South Pacific. So obviously that is a part of our culture too, because he spent so many years there and actually attended school there too. So, you know, we feel like that's part of our heritage too, the Solomon Islands. So it's so nice.
And where is the accent from? Where are you based? Because Birmingham. Is that what they call a Brummy? Is that what they call Brummy accent?
Brummy accent, yeah.
Yes. So, so this is it. Like, I'm, you know, originally from Ghana, but I was born here. I've only been twice, but I have a very strong kind of connection with Ghana, with the motherland. And I'm really into teaching my children the culture, the language, all of that. And so, and I've been learning with them. Do you know what I mean? Because I always understood I always understood the language, but I never had the confidence to speak it. And then I married a Zimbabwean, and all we do is we speak English in the home. So that's when I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to really be intentional about speaking my language, because otherwise it's just going to get lost. And so I've really enjoyed learning with them. And I think one of the things that I'm going to take from you in terms of is getting other family members involved to help with teaching the language, and I'm sure they would absolutely love it, teaching the history as well. And all that.
So you have that freedom as well to go out there too. I mean, obviously once all this is settled down, but as a home ed family, you have the freedom to travel during off-peak travel time.
Yes.
So you don't realize how priceless that is.
It's so much cheaper. Oh my gosh, guys. So much cheaper. Like, we traveled to Ghana in November, and it was like a good £3,000 less than what it would have been if we were, travel during the school holidays. So absolutely. And you have someone who's made Birmingham Doula has said, big up the Brummies. So we've got some Birmingham in the house. And this is where you get back the whole concept of world schooling, where there are homeschooling families that literally travel and they teach their children through their travel experiences, and they think that's the best way to equip their children. I think it's amazing. Like, I've seen phenomenal.
That is the plan for us as well, long term. That is the plan. And my mother-in-law's built a house. She lives in Manchester, but she's built a house in Uganda, in Kitoro, where she's from. So that family home is going to be a lodge, as well as obviously a tourist attraction area as well. So it's a lodge and then also a family home, so we can go out there whenever we like. And that's a completion now. And we can take families with us, so if you're willing to come along.
To go to Uganda, yeah, why not? And so in terms of you homeschooling for the long term, what is your vision? Because there are so many different thoughts and ideas that I've heard. Have you always kind of said to yourselves, we're starting homeschooling and we're going to go all the way through? Like, what is it that you're kind of thinking?
I mean, you can't really put a blanket, this is how it's going to be forever, really. I think it would be unfair on your family to do that. What I will say is we're not anti-school. We are pro-creative learners, but also, as well, we want to world school, but also give them opportunities that they want to take to. So Roxy's shown a strong interest in midwifery. And all the way through my pregnancy, she's always been my note taker, my second midwife, And obviously you need certain GCSEs for that. So, but that's not to say she has to wait till she's 16 to do them either. And that's why I always tell people too, if she wanted to do a maths GCSE at 11, she could do it then.
Absolutely.
So it's not so much about, the length of time we will homeschool. It will be just wherever we are at that time. If she wants to pursue certain things and Terrell wants to do his maths early, maybe they can. And so just basically opening them up to as many channels as possible, so that when they want to choose, they feel the confidence to do so.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's it, really. I mean, we can go down the route of you're going to do GCSEs at 16, you're going to do, and then they might not want to use them, If you've just totally focused on that, you've kind of not really given them a wide scope to tackle at a later stage. I think the main thing for us has been to instill our family values into our children that spend so much time with us. Our vibe, our energy, the way that we connect as a couple is so important, and the way that we love each other. This is the foundation of what we need to bring back is families. Families that are together and love each other and stay together and work at it and respect each other. And these are the things that when you strip everything else, your profession, you strip yourself of everything, that is all you have.
Yeah.
You know, so the main objective of this is to teach our children how to love themselves and each other.
Yeah.
And family.
And you know what? And that's so important, because I remember vividly when I was teaching, there was a mum. She was the deputy head teacher, and she gave her life to that career, like completely gave herself to the career, to the point whereby she was talking about, she gave an account, and she was sharing this with one of my colleagues, and she was sharing this story through tears. She was saying how she came to the school during the school holidays to work, and she parked up the car and she left her son in the car, and she just sort of said, look, I'm going to be back. I just need to get some stuff done. And she became so consumed that hours would go by. And you know, she just became, she became married to her job, her profession essentially. And then what happened was we had a change of head teacher, and that head teacher didn't really take a liking to this particular lady. And so she was managed out, you know, and she had to kind of get to, she really had to reflect. And with all of that, for what? You know, because the reality is you can give yourself to these professions, but you are so quickly and so easily replaceable. Yeah. You know, you are so disposable to these companies. But when it comes to your family, you know, the meaning that you have, the value that you have in your family is priceless. And this is why I think that's one of the things I was really drawn to you about, because, you know, you are unashamedly, unapologetically all about the family, you know, the family unit. And I think that is something that is breaking down in society, and it's having it's having so much in terms of a wider effect on everything, you know. So I think it's amazing that you guys, you really do push that. And I think it's so important for us to kind of get back to that.
Definitely. I think as well, just the whole family dynamics too, the respect that we have for men in our household, the respect that we have. There's a lot of bigging up women. There's a lot of super mummy talk, and, you know, you do so well with all those kids, well done you. And I'm like, listen, I am nothing without my husband. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to say when women say to me that you know, they run their house. No. My husband runs our home.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually read a piece that you actually, it was from I don't know if it was a blog or a magazine, and you were just like, listen, my husband is the head of the home, and I was like, what? Yes, you know, because the thing is, like, we don't hear this being said often, but the reality is, as we are all equal in value, but we have different roles, and we have those roles for a reason, you know. And so I just think that is, it's just wonderful. And I think as well, one of the things that homeschooling will do is it will really challenge you to, as you said, work on the home environment, because your children are home so much. So if the environment is unhealthy or toxic in any way, that's not healthy for the child, you know. So it's really important, as you said, that they are seeing good examples around them, and they're able to model off that, and it's a healthy environment that they want to be in, and it forces you to really make sure that that's a priority.
That's right. And even if you didn't grow up that way, or you didn't have examples of that, it's your responsibility as an adult to make it that way. If you want it that way, you know, if you want that security as a woman, you've got to be able to be led. You know, you've got to swallow. You know, be proud, but be proud of yourself as a family unit. Not too proud to the point where you won't allow yourself to be led by your husband. You know, that was a very big shift for me, and I pat myself on the back for that I can do that now. And when I'm saying I pat myself on my back, obviously I've been guided too with love and affection, but at the same time, it takes a strong and wonderful leader to be able to lead that, and that is the example I want for my sons. I want my sons to see that they lead their household, and I want our daughters to see that they are to be led to in the right way, obviously. And it's so important because these family dynamics can be a mess.
Absolutely. And the reality is, if a husband loves his wife, you know, it is easy to follow that leadership. You know, it's not an issue. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
I always, I had a conversation with a very wise lady. I won't mention her name, but she's very wise. And she said to me, oh, I went for the career, I went for the job, I got what I wanted, but I lost what I had. And I said, what do you mean by that? She said, I got what I wanted, but I lost what I had.
Wow.
I lost the security that my husband used to give me. I lost that passion that we had, the way that we used to interact with each other. I lost it, and that's what I wanted to begin with. But then when I got what I wanted from the outside, because the outside was calling me and she couldn't silence the noise, as I say, she lost what she had.
Wow.
And that was really powerful when she said that to me. You know.
And I think as well, you know, women oftentimes we have to really evaluate what is it that we want. And I think the reality is you can be a very strong, powerful, successful woman and still, you know, have your husband lead your home and, you know, and still have it that you recognize him as the head. You know, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It absolutely can be both, you know. And so I think you have put that so well. You've articulated that so beautifully, and I really do appreciate that. And in terms of I was going to ask about with your children and the fact that you have four sons or five? Four sons and 2 daughters.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of the fact that you have sons, did that in any way kind of influence your decision even more so to homeschool or anything like that? Tell me about that, because I feel like there's something about when we have a son that is just like, I don't know. You I guess.
Like, you ain't going nowhere, mate. You're staying with us. You're going to no school. I think as soon as we had Terrell, it was like, you're definitely home educated children. You definitely, there is no. I couldn't never imagine anyway dropping Roxy and Terrell off then to school or nursery or anything. I just couldn't imagine that process, being able to do that. You know, it just didn't even enter the mind. Like, and then now, obviously, we have 4 sons. It's like, wow, gee, this was meant to be, really. It's going nowhere.
I 100% agree with you. I really feel like this, and this actually came up in the last live that I did with Maruk, where we were talking about, we just see how being home educated, I feel like it's an even greater need with boys, you know, because I don't even know if I can put it into words, like what it is, but I feel like girls can kind of get on with things a bit more, but boys definitely need a lot of guidance, especially because I think they can be misunderstood very easily. The energy, you know, and the testosterone and all of that can be misunderstood as aggressiveness or, you know, being too hyper. You know, I personally, you know, and I know this may sound quite controversial, but I think that there are lots of labels of ADHD going around that are actually misplaced, you know, because and they're really just a misunderstanding of how some of these boys are naturally, you know, and it's just about trying to understand them and taking your time with them, you know. So yeah,
definitely see that even at the moment we're practicing for a school kind of Christmas concert that we put together. Well, the children have put it together. I'm just the facilitator with the clipboard. I get to shout the stage directions. That's my job. But just even whilst the others are performing, just watching how the boys are sitting on the rug, and just can't keep still. There's got to be some action going on, or
yes,
and it's not their turn, and just managing things like that. Even you just think, wow, how has this been managed if I didn't know them? So before they even get to do that, I might hand the clipboard to them and say, next, you tell me who's next afterwards. Because I know that that's coming, where sometimes they might not settle, sometimes they might do, and I think it's just that. I think sometimes we feel that boys need lots of stimulation, so we overstimulate them and then wonder why they're so hyperactive as well. So there's a balance there. And I think sometimes boys just need to be left alone and just to do and just wander around and do whatever they please. And a lot of fresh air. We get a lot of fresh air. So take them for long walks. Bring your ball if you want, or your scoot. Sometimes I've got like a pair of skates on the walk, 2 skateboards, a bike. There's just so much on this walk, but everyone's using everything, and it's fine because I know that we're going to have a chilled afternoon after this.
And you're expending all of that energy, and so no, that's incredible. And would you say that's one of the ways that it does help in terms of managing the dynamics of 5 children in the home, spending a lot of time outside? Because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, how does she do it? When I put up the flyer, I had people like messaging me, 6? Like, what? So like, how do you do it?
Yeah, I think, they kind of do it, to be honest. They kind of look after each other. When they wake up in the morning, they're very active. We've made it that they have a large bedroom, a very large bedroom where they all have their own beds in. And then the other room, we've turned it into a kind of a playroom, classroom. So they only really sleep or read in their bedroom. And the playroom is the other one. So the rule is they have to obviously freshen up, get dressed before they go in the playroom. And then once they're in the playroom, they get their jigsaws out, they're playing with magnets, Lego. They kind of just ease themselves into the day slowly. Then, we have because we'll touch on this as well, like our diets are not just food diets. There's also what we watch, what we listen to. What we allow and expose our children to is also part of your diet. It's also the information you're taking in.
Come on.
We make sure that they know about intermittent fasting and things like that. They don't always stop as soon as they wake up. They have like a 4-hour period of where they have smoothies, apple cider vinegar with hot water, or they'll have fruits. Just for a period of time, and then we'll move on to breakfast. And we've noticed a change in the behaviours just from doing that.
Wow.
Not having to eat as soon as they wake up, lots of food, and overstuffing the diet. And then also, I make dinner whilst I make breakfast. So I cook breakfast and dinner at the same time, so that we eat earlier in the afternoon, which means there's a lot less digestion taking place in the late evening. And that has also helped behaviours, nighttime bedwetting, things like that. It's also really helped all of that. So because of the way that we live and the fresh air and stuff, I can't really say that me and Mark have to manage any bad behaviours. That, you notice things straight away when things are off. But it's usually down to illness or things like that. They're very good children, and I don't really have that. It gets hectic, but it's never chaotic to the point where I'm like pulling my hair out, like, oh my God. And then also as well, you've got to think about yourself. Like, have I had enough fresh air? Have I eaten the right things? Have I made sure that I got enough rest? Do I need to take some time out and start making some things, making some craft activities? What do I need to do? Sometimes if I'm feeling a bit tense, like I make these chokers out of the material. So I make my chokers, I make my canvases, and I make loads and then just give them as presents to people. There's managing myself than trying to manage children in that respect. So I don't really feel like, I call myself an octopus sometimes. Just at certain times of the day, I am an octopus. But that's not all day. You have periods of hectic side of things, but it's not all day.
Amazing. Well, we've actually run out of time. We've actually,
wow.
yeah.
Oh goodness, it is 9. Wow.
But you've covered so much. You've talked about just how diet has impact on behavior and not just for the children, but for us as parents as well. You've covered like your creative approach to learning and your holistic lifestyle kind of attitude towards, just the way that you actually approach home education. And it's been phenomenal. Like, I've learned so much. I loved everything you had to say about the importance of play. And it was just really lovely, like listening to your experiences of working in a school, of working in a private school as well, and all the comparisons. Like, it's been so insightful. And so for those of you who maybe have joined live, I am going to maybe have joined live, maybe did not join on time, or you joined the live late, I am going to save it on the page so that you can replay it, because honestly there were so many nuggets that were dropped. And throughout the session, we covered talks on like topics of ADHD and all that jazz. And, I think it's been really, really insightful. And so thank you so, so much for honoring the invitation. Yep, we have Sophia saying it was a great live. And you've had lots of comments throughout the talk, people saying that they agree, with what you've been saying, and lots of hearts and so on. And oh yes, and we talked a lot about the dynamics of the home, the relationship between the husband and the wife, and that impact as well. And it has been amazing. It has been so, so good. So as I said, you've already inspired me on so many levels in ways that I've already applied in my homeschooling, which I have talked about, but you've given me more nuggets. I now need to start looking at my diet and the children's diet and everything you were saying about the intermittent fasting. I was like, okay, it's brilliant. So thank you so, so much. Thank you.
And thank you for all of these wonderful lives that you've been doing when I see them come up, I'm like, wow, the information that I've got from them, because of obviously the book side of things, and just the nuggets that have been dropped on the previous lives. I'm really grateful. So thank you, and thank you for having me, and thank you.
Oh no, I had to have you. I had to absolutely have you. And now you guys that have watched, you can see why. You can see why. So thank you so much to all of the Birmingham crew that joined live, all of the Brummies in the house. Thank you. Do have a lovely evening. And I don't know what I'm going to do for the next. I'm thinking about doing a series of lives with children, adults who were homeschooled as children.
Oh, that would be interesting, yeah.
Yes, I'm thinking to do that next year. So watch this space. But it's been amazing. This was the final one of my Let's Talk Homeschooling Live, and it's been great. So thank you for joining, everyone, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Bye. Oh no, we have people joining. No, we're leaving.